Hi, I'm Kenny Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, and welcome to Impact. Thank you for joining us today. We have an opportunity on a regular basis to talk about great things that are happening in our city and give you a chance to learn more about those things that are happening in your community that have an impact on your life. Today we're going to talk about something that a lot of people are talking about, and we brought some experts into the studio to talk about things that you need to know about the Affordable Care Act. Joining me today is Sonja Smith. She is a project coordinator with Enroll Alabama Project, which is a part of AIDS Alabama.
Yes.
And she's been on our broadcast before and shared some great information. We wanted to have her back, so welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We also have Traniesa Caldwell. She is a navigator with Enroll Alabama. We're going to learn more about what that is in just a few moments, but thank you for being on the broadcast today as well.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I read a lot, and one of the things I read a lot about is all of the talk that goes on about the Affordable Care Act, the fact that there was a registration deadline, that at that deadline, or I should say as of today, some 8 million people are reportedly to have signed up for the Affordable Care Act, which really sounds pretty cool to me, because it sounds like a whole lot of people perhaps who were not covered prior to this act being passed are now taking advantage of that for various reasons. And I want to use this opportunity perhaps to give some critical information and maybe dispel some myths even about lots of things that are being said out there, a lot of fears, a lot of concerns, and a lot of confusion even still about this whole process. But it seems like things are moving in the right direction right now. And you have to start somewhere before you get to where you want to go. So thank you again for being here today. Tell us, first of all, what Enroll Alabama is.
Okay. Well, Enroll Alabama is like you said, a project of AIDS Alabama. So our main office is located in Birmingham, and we have satellite offices spread throughout the state. So we have one here in Huntsville, as well as Anniston, Selma, Montgomery, Mobile, Dothan. So we're really out in the community, and our goal is to help people get signed up on the health insurance marketplace. And we also work to educate the community about the Affordable Care Act.
Let me start right there, because you hear that word marketplace a lot. And, you know, traditionally when I think about marketplace, of course, I'm thinking about going to the grocery store. And I do know what the marketplace is as far as the insurance issue is concerned, but help people understand what that means.
Okay. Well, I guess to kind of follow up on your analogy, it is similar to going to the grocery store. So you have, you go to the marketplace and you can go online, or you could call the call center, 1-800-318-2596, or online to healthcare.gov. And a person can essentially put in their information, your household income, based on your household size, based on how you file your taxes, and then get an apples to apples comparison of the insurance plans that would be available to them for their particular area, and along with the subsidies or tax credits that they'd be afforded.
So essentially the government set up this marketplace that people can actually shop for insurance options that fit their budget, fit their family needs, and provides coverage for them in case of some kind of health crisis, or perhaps even ongoing care and things like that.
Exactly. And so a person, like you said, they can look at it based on their financial needs. So there are 4 different categories. There's the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum plans. The bronze and silver plans are going to be a little bit cheaper for you, but they might have a higher deductible. Versus your platinum and gold plans, which are going to cost more and have a lower deductible.
So you're out there talking to lots of people now. I know, TC, you're working with, as a navigator in the community, with populations of people as well. How is it going so far? Are people getting it? Are people engaging you in this conversation? Are they signing up? Are they still asking lots of questions? How's it going out there right now?
Right now we have, here in Huntsville, a lot of people asking questions. It's still a lot of misinformation being put out there as far as the, Affordable Care Act is going. And we're really trying to get people from saying Obamacare and saying Affordable Care Act, because believe it or not, a lot of people think they're 2 different things. So
that's part of that misinformation, which is kind of interesting. And it's easy too, I guess, for some people to dismiss the good parts of this act. It's a very broad and comprehensive process and a very broad and comprehensive act. And I've had some time to look at parts of it and study some of it. And like most other things, there's some things I think are great and some things I think not so great. But I think the one great thing that I would hope everyone could agree on is that people who were not able to get insurance at one point now have access to some kind of care. And when you think about the vulnerability that we face as just humans living every day, and the very simple ways that we run into medical challenges, which is just maybe a cut or needing to rest from a sprain, and you kind of wrap your ankle or put some ice on something, those very basic things, all the way up to the surgical kinds of things that need to take place, the prenatal care, all of the things that people perhaps were not taking advantage of, they now have an opportunity to take advantage of. And that seems to me to be a win-win situation.
Definitely. And that's one thing that we really like about the Affordable Care Act too, is that now pre-existing conditions are no longer an issue. Whereas,
I have to say, that was the most exciting thing to me. That's at the top of my list of what I like about this. It's the pre-existing condition thing.
yes.
And maybe it's because I'm getting older and I'm thinking, as you get older, more things happen to you.
Right.
And it's like you can't do a do-over
Right.
prior to this process. But I love the fact that the pre-existing condition is out of the window now. It's not an issue.
Yes, definitely. So that's great. And so one thing that, other things that we found is that people are new to insurance, and there's a lot of things that they don't know about what they can get from their new policies. So we have put together a how to understand your insurance and get the most out of it presentation and guide. And so we've got some of those events that are set up around the city to help people out.
So that's good. You're moving around the community. Like most other things, education is a huge factor in helping people understand something. Have you had situations where people kind of came in, maybe scratching their head, not really knowing what this was all about, or maybe even being a little resistant with some negativity, and then they discovered something about this process that they thought, wow, this is exactly what I need? Have you had those kinds of experiences?
Definitely. Had a couple not too long ago, a few months ago, come in not realizing they could get a tax credit to help with the cost of insurance. The only thing they were focused on is that it was just so expensive. And that's another thing with the misinformation. People don't know that it's affordable for a reason. If you're working and you can get that tax credit, what would have been maybe a $240 a month insurance plan ended up being $30-something a month. So those success stories like that, and that's another thing too. We would like for more people to come to the front and tell their success stories, so we can show that, hey, this is helping our community.
Yeah, I've from time to time watched some of the talking head shows and watched people actually examine this whole process. And I've heard lots of people say negative things, but I've also heard lots of people say, you know what, this was the best thing that could have ever happened to me and my family. They've seen the benefit of it, they've seen the value of it, and they have definitely recognized and embraced the investment in it. And I would hope that as we continue to talk about these kinds of things in society in general, that people would give it a chance, that they would give it a chance in terms of finding out what it really is and what it really means to their lives, and not just simply, take it off the marketplace, take it off the shelf in terms of their own choices and feelings, and let it just be an emotionally driven decision. Recognize that there's some things about this process that are really putting things in people's hands and giving people access to that traditionally they did not have access to.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's really important to focus on how this is helping our community and not necessarily on who it came from or all the backstory, but just look at how this is making us a healthier community.
So there was a deadline just a couple of months or so ago, and people were racing to the deadline, and President Obama's administration, of course, was monitoring and tracking numbers, and they were hoping to reach a number, and they exceeded that number. As of this date, as I said, over 8 million people have registered. People are still sort of fine-tuning the process and sort of sifting through things to figure out what that really means, because people still have to pay their premiums as well. Once they sign up, they've got to get into the process and pay. So we're still maybe a little early in terms of assessing the process, but I want to ask about that enrollment period that ended. If I'm a person who doesn't have insurance at this point, what do I do?
Well, there are a few options. Like you said, open enrollment ended the end of March. So now we're in what we call a special enrollment period. So if there are certain life-changing events that a person might experience, that would qualify them to still enroll today.
What would an example of a life-changing event be?
So that would be if a person got married or divorced, had a child, maybe gave a child up for adoption, lost their job-based coverage, was released from incarceration. If you move maybe from county to county or city to city, then you can report that, and then that could qualify you, whereas if you weren't qualified before.
What about a medical problem? Would that qualify a person?
No, unfortunately, that won't qualify a person. That's very similar to not having car insurance and then getting into an accident and calling an agent and saying, "Hey,
I'd like to get coverage."
Exactly.
I wish I had coverage.
Right.
Yeah.
So in that instance, you'll have to wait until the next open enrollment period, which will start November 15th.
Okay.
And it will be much shorter this time. So November 15th to February 15th.
Right, because the first time there was, I think, some extensions on the original deadline as well.
Right. The original deadline was for a full 6 months, and then it was extended for 2 weeks.
Right. So there was a short window of extension. This time, you kind of know where you're going to be because you've dove in now.
Right.
And you know kind of what's going on and what has happened since that time. And so now you've got people out there, you're moving through the community. TC, you're a navigator. Tell us what a navigator is.
My job is to pretty much help people enroll in the marketplace and understand what they're getting. So I help them navigate through the process. Yeah.
They ask you lots of questions and
Plenty of
Yeah.
questions, which is understandable. For a lot of people, this is their first time ever having insurance. My mother's in her 50s, first time, because of the Affordable Care Act, she can have insurance.
wow.
So we're seeing a lot of our older generation able to afford insurance now. So I don't mind the questions. It really makes me proud to be able to help someone who can now have better care. So, but we get plenty of questions.
Yeah, and you would expect that there would be lots of questions because this is a new process. Even for people who have insurance, they're asking questions. Should I go with this plan? Is my coverage sufficient for my family? And you've got all these different things on the table now that people can actually assess in terms of their quality of life concern. Am I adequately covered? Am I properly covered? And are the options out there across the board the right one for me? And so I imagine as a navigator, you get an opportunity to explore all of those different dynamics of a person's life.
And there are a few cases where, we end up talking about other things like what's going on in their life. A new grandchild is here, or, I have a child who just graduated. But one thing we want to stress, I want to stress is I can't influence your decision on what you pick out of the marketplace. I can only give you the tools. I can only explain each plan. But one thing I love about the Affordable Care Act is that it puts the power into people's hands to make those decisions for themselves. So, but we're not allowed to actually give too much on like what we think would be best. We can just show you how each plan is laid out.
So you kind of serve as a guide.
And
The person makes the choice. This may not be a question that you can tackle. It may not even be a fair question, but I want to ask it because I know in our state we don't have a lot of carriers. Like Blue Cross Blue Shield, I know, I'd say just has a crushing hold on our state. I'll just kind of describe it like that, which is one of the things that, kind of makes me cringe when I think about this whole issue of options and things like that. I'm sure this whole process would be a little bit different if there were more options available to us. Is that one of the complaints that you get from people, or is that one of the drawbacks to this whole Affordable Care Act and the idea that the government now has created this opportunity for people to choose, as you said? But in a state that has, and Alabama's not alone, it's just happened to be one of those states where this is happening, but there are several around the nation where there are limited options. Does that not create a little bit of a drawback to this whole notion of having options?
Well, in my opinion, no. You're correct that Blue Cross Blue Shield has the entire state, and then Humana has select counties throughout the state, and Madison County is one of those few select counties. But I actually think it's okay the first time around to just have a limited number of carriers or providers. I feel like then a person isn't too overwhelmed with options. So when you look at it and you've got 10 plans to choose from, that's a lot easier to manage than going through and realizing you have 118 options, like in some other states.
Wow.
So I think this first year, I think it's actually pretty good that we just have a limited number of options. And I think as providers are seeing the opportunities that are available here, because we did have so many people to enroll, I think in the future we will have more people that will join on.
So you really kind of made the glass half full for me just now. Don't look at that negative side, just look at the positive stuff.
Yes.
Which is, I think, again, an important part of what we're talking about, the education part of this. That people look at one aspect of something sometimes and they want to, as older folk used to say, throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like one thing is bad about it, so let's get rid of all of it. Or one thing exists that I don't like, I don't feel comfortable with, so it must be a horrible thing. And just like most other things, we have to be selective in how we approach this and find a thing that fits us. And I think when I say us, I'm just talking about all those people that are uninsured and those that really need these kinds of things in their life to create a sense of stability and security, because it's tough being a person without medical insurance. I want to address those young people out there, of which I was once one of that number. And I say that because when I first got out of school and got my first job, I declined insurance coverage. It was like, it's just one more expense. I'm a young guy, I'm 21, 22 years old. I'm going to live forever. I'm strong and I'm healthy. Nothing's going to be wrong with me. So why do I need to pursue this kind of thing? So I want you to talk to that group out there, because they're out there, people that aren't thinking that way and thinking that it's important for them to sign on to this plan, which of course they have to do. But talk to those people and tell them why this is, just the whole notion of having insurance is an important thing.
Well, I think very similar to that car insurance notion that we mentioned earlier. It's something that you have to have, of course. You don't expect that you're going to have an accident, but when you have one, you're glad that you did have it. And I think it's a similar situation here. Yes, when you're young, you think that nothing's going to happen. Everything is okay. I can just go to Walgreens to get me some cold medicine when I'm not feeling well, or put a Band-Aid on it and I'll be okay.
Right.
But, you don't want to be caught in a severe situation where you have to come out of pocket for the full cost of going to the emergency room, or the cost of having a biopsy for what we thought was just a routine procedure, then turns into something much larger. So it definitely is a preventative measure, and what better to protect than your body. So.
Yeah, I think you make some great points there. Just the whole idea, you said the emergency room. Nobody plans for an emergency, but emergencies happen.
Right.
And then at that point, what do you do? And this kind of an expense, I hope, and I'm always talking to people as well, saying, think about it like this, just like the car insurance, what home insurance, you don't just own a home and don't have insurance on it, because you could lose that home. You could lose the property in that home, and you want to be able to back it up and cover it. Legal insurance, is out there and available to people. I don't have a lawsuit to file every day or a legal question every day. I may never have one, actually, and I've driven for a long time. I've never had to use my insurance for an accident, so I'm covered, and I have the security of being covered. And that's why I pay that monthly fee. Even though I'd much rather perhaps save it or invest it in something else or spend it on something else, it gives me a sense of security knowing that I can move forward with that. And a lot of young people don't see that, but I hope they will with this Affordable Care Act now being in place and these options on the table.
Definitely, and it's also a convenience factor. If you think about the effort, I guess, so to speak, that it goes through to make an appointment with the health department or to go to the emergency room and how long you have to wait. If you have insurance, you don't have to go through those types of hassles. You can just call your doctor, make an appointment, and then go for that particular time. So it's a convenient factor, and I like to look at my time as worth something. So to me, it's worth it to spend a little bit for insurance, which is then going to preserve my time to be spent doing other things.
Okay. So how does somebody in the community, or perhaps some of the communities that you're working in, they find out about your organization, or they find out about the Affordable Care Act and they have questions and they want to know more about how to maybe get you all to come out and talk to them about what this plan is and what's available and answer questions for them? How do they go about doing that?
Well, they can reach me at 205-332-0175. That's the Enroll number. Or they can email me at enrollhuntsville@gmail.com, and we'll be glad to come out. We're actually looking for more people to volunteer with us so we can train them and educate them on what's going on. You know, more numbers could help with the community.
So you're recruiting navigators.
Recruiting navigators or volunteers. You know, we need help setting up in certain places. We need help navigating people through the marketplace. So
if people are interested in doing that, once again, they've contact you at what contact?
205-332-0175, or email me at enrollhuntsville@gmail.com.
That also probably, I'm just thinking about this, would be a great maybe service project for some colleges and universities that are out there looking for some way to give their students real world experience. I mean, this is sort of cutting edge stuff in terms of medical coverage and the things that people will be exposed and what they'll learn. And so if we have those folk listening out there today, they may want to make sure to get that number and email so that they can contact you and make that happen. And you're available, I imagine, for churches and conventions and any other group of people that want you to come in, homeowners associations that want you to come in and just give them a briefing on what services are available so that people that have those questions can get those questions answered.
Definitely. Anyone who wants to help either by serving as a volunteer, and that can be for as many or as few hours as they have available. We can find something for them to do to help us out. Or if they want to just offer their space and ask us to come in and give a presentation to their group, we're more than happy to come out and help.
Yeah, and I think that's really great. It's in the spirit of what happens in so many situations when you have a service or a product that people should know about and be aware of, that you're willing and able to go out and do this thing at no cost to the person. It's in your best interest to get as much of this information in people's hands as possible. And so I imagine that the talking part of this is a big part of your job.
Yes.
I'll be talking to lots of people all the time, and people have lots of questions. Enroll Alabama is here to stay. And you will be moving around the communities throughout the state,
Right.
and touching people and helping them know and be informed about this whole process of how to get insurance.
Exactly. And like TC said, you can always contact her in the Huntsville office, or you can call if you have family that lives elsewhere around the state or other parts of the state that needs assistance. You can call the main line at 205-918-8192.
All right. That's terrific. And so we're looking forward to seeing you guys more in our community. We're hoping that people that are listening today will take that information down and use it. It is a wonderful thing to be informed about something that no one's keeping a secret, and to know that this is information that's readily available and you all just are waiting for an opportunity to come out and do it is a great thing to help people know what's going on as far as what their options are in terms of health care. Thank you for being with us today and sharing this great information. This has really been some very good stuff. We've been talking with Sonja Smith. She's a project coordinator with Enroll Alabama Project, which is a part of AIDS Alabama. Thank you for joining us once again and helping us understand a little bit more. Each time we learn a little bit more. And I'm sure that as we discover more things, we'll maybe probably, have you back again and say some more things to us about what's happening.
Yes, well, thank you again for supporting and having us here. So we always enjoy being here and sharing what's going on with the community. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right. TC is a navigator. She's making it happen out there and sharing information about this process with people. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. And if you see me on the street with my Enroll shirt on, I do a lot of outreach. Don't be shy. Come up. I have information, and I love to sit down and talk.
That's great. That's great. And of course, I know you all will be involved with many community projects over the coming months, and we're excited to know that. We want to thank you for being a part of our broadcast today, and thank you as always for tuning into Impact. We'll be back with another edition of the broadcast soon. In the meantime, I hope that you have a great rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.